I'll never forget the look on her face when I backed my old fishing boat down. Maple Bay Road. Pure horror. Like I'd just dumped toxic waste in her rose garden. It was early summer, one of those golden mornings where everything smells like salt, pine, and sunscreen. The kind of day that makes you feel like life is finally settling down. I'd just retired from 20 years in the Coast Guard. Bought a nice little house by the water, technically outside the HOA, and I was ready to enjoy some peace and quiet. Or so I thought. My boat, the Liberty Belle, wasn't fancy. A 25-foot Grady White with chipped paint and a rebuilt motor, but she was mine. I'd spent months restoring her. Every dent told a story. Every screw had my sweat in it. To me, she wasn't just a boat. She was freedom after decades of structure and chain of command. But to Karen, she was a violation. "Excuse me?" Her voice snapped across the morning like a whip. I turned, squinting in the sunlight. There she was, blonde bob, pastel sweater tied around her shoulders, HOA clipboard in hand, like some suburban pirate queen ready to defend her HOA treasure map. "Yes, ma'am?" I asked, wiping grease from my hands. "You can't park that thing here," she said, motioning toward my trailer. "This is an HOA neighborhood. Boats are prohibited." I smiled politely. "Well, actually, ma'am, I live just outside the HOA boundary. Lot 52A, county land." She frowned. "That's impossible. We maintain this entire road." I leaned against my truck. "No, the county does. Check your map." Her nostrils flared. "I will be reporting this to the board. You can't just bring eyesores into our community." Eyesores, that word hit like a slap. "This eyesore has seen more service than you can imagine," I muttered under my breath. She gasped. "Excuse me?" "Nothing, ma'am." "Have a good day." I got back in my truck and finished parking the boat behind my house. As I unhooked the trailer, I could feel her stare burning holes into my back. Something told me that wasn't the last I'd hear from her. For the next few days, things were quiet. Too quiet. Until the first letter showed up. Notice of violation. Unauthorized marine vessel storage. It was printed on HOA letterhead and signed, of course, by Karen Simmons, HOA president. It demanded I remove my boat within 48 hours or face a $250 daily fine. I laughed out loud. "Nice try, Karen." I called the HOA office. A woman named Tina answered. Her voice tired like she'd been fielding complaints all day. "Hi, this is Matt Richardson. I just got a violation notice, but I'm not in your HOA. Let me pull up your address," she said. I could hear her typing. Oh, wow. "You're right. You're just outside our jurisdiction. So no fines, right?" She chuckled softly. "No fines. I'll note it in the system." I hung up, satisfied, and thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 3 days later, I was down by the dock tuning the outboard when I heard the sound of tires crunching on gravel. I turned, and there was Karen again, standing with her arms crossed next to a shiny white SUV. She had company this time, 2 men with HOA badges hanging from lanyards. Her little army. "Mr. Richardson," she said, smiling like she was greeting a courtroom jury. "We're conducting a community inspection." I stood, wiping my hands. "Community inspection of whose community? Because this property ain't yours." She ignored me. "Your vessel violates neighborhood aesthetic standards and obstructs visibility from the road." I pointed to the road behind her. "You mean the one with the county maintenance sign?" One of the men mumbled, "He's got a point, Karen." She shot him a glare. "We have authority to maintain visual harmony within a certain perimeter of the community." I raised an eyebrow. "You got authority to make up words too?" Her face went red. "This isn't a joke. That thing lowers property values?" I smiled thinly. "Then maybe you should buy the property." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. That night I got another email. Subject, final warning. Failure to comply with HOA ordinances will result in escalated action. That was it. No signature. No letterhead. Just a threat. I didn't reply. Instead, I poured myself a glass of whiskey, went out to the back deck, and looked over the marina lights shimmering across the bay. They looked peaceful, free, and something clicked inside me. I wasn't going to move my boat. I was going to anchor my life right here, for good. The next morning, I stopped by the local marina for gas and coffee. The owner, an old-timer named Harvey, waved me over. Hey, Coastie. Heard you ruffled some HOA feathers. I grinned. Word travels fast. Karen's been at it again, huh? You know, half her community rent slips from me. If she could, she'd ban the ocean. We both laughed. Then Harvey's tone shifted. Listen, between you and me, I'm getting ready to retire. You ever think of investing in a place like this? I looked around. Wooden docks, weathered boats, the smell of salt and diesel. It felt like home. How much are we talking? I asked casually. He scratched his chin. Let's just say the right guy could own the whole marina for less than a fancy HOA house. I nodded slowly. The idea planted itself deep in my mind, like an anchor hitting mud. Later that week, Karen struck again. I came home to find a police cruiser parked out front. My heart sank. Not because I'd done anything wrong, but because I already knew who was behind it. The officer, a young guy with mirrored sunglasses, walked up as I stepped out of my truck. Afternoon, sir. We got a report of an unregistered vessel and a possible environmental violation. I sighed. Let me guess, from Karen Simmons? He cracked a grin. You know her? Unfortunately. He took a quick look at my registration papers, nodded, and handed them back. You're clear. Everything's up to date. Appreciate it, officer. He turned toward the road, where Karen stood behind her SUV watching. I'll let her know. He walked over, said a few words I couldn't hear, and then I saw Karen's face twist in disbelief. Her hands flew into the air. The officer just shook his head, got back in his car, and drove off. I couldn't help it. I laughed until my stomach hurt. But inside I knew this wasn't over. Karen wasn't just mad. She was obsessed. And I was done playing defense. If she wanted to fight over the marina, maybe it was time I owned it. The idea of buying the marina wouldn't leave my head. All week I kept thinking about it. During breakfast. While mowing the yard, even in the shower. It felt crazy. But the good kind of crazy. Harvey's words echoed. Less than a fancy HOA house. I'd spent 20 years serving the country, saving every dime I could. Maybe it was time to drop anchor somewhere that actually mattered. Friday morning, I drove down to Maple Bay Marina with 2 coffees in hand. The air smelled like seaweed and diesel, my kind of perfume. Harvey was fixing a rope cleat on one of the docks when he saw me. Well, look who's back. Couldn't sleep on it, huh? I laughed. You read me too well. I handed him a coffee. So tell me, you serious about selling? He nodded slowly. Serious as a tide chart. My kids don't want it. They're city folks. I'd rather hand it to someone who'll keep it alive. We walked the docks together, the wooden boards creaking under our boots, pelicans diving in the distance. Everything you see, Harvey said, comes with the deed, slips, fuel dock, office, even the bait shop. But it needs work. Plumbing's ancient and the main pier's due for repairs. I stared out across the calm water, sunlight glinting off the waves. How much? He named a number. My jaw didn't drop, but my wallet groaned. Still, something in my gut told me it was the right move. I shook his hand. Let's talk paperwork. Harvey grinned. Didn't take you long to go from sailor to owner. By Monday, word was out. The neighborhood group chat. Maple Shores residents only are exploded with messages. Karen S. Can anyone confirm that he bought the marina? This affects property values. OH. Affects them how, Karen? You don't even go near the water. Karen S. It's the principal. He's flaunting his money to defy the HOA. I chuckled reading it. The HOA wasn't supposed to care about the marina. It was county property, but Karen cared about control more than anything. 2 weeks later, the papers were signed. Matt Richardson, owner, Maple Bay Marina. The first thing I did was repaint the weathered sign at the gate. Big, clean letters that read, Welcome to Maple Bay Marina, locals and veterans welcome. Harvey's old employees clapped as I hung it. Even a few nearby boaters cheered. That night I stood by the dock under a sky full of stars, a beer in hand, listening to the gentle slap of waves against the hulls. I'd bought freedom, literally. But freedom doesn't sit well with people like Karen. The next morning, a county truck rolled up. 2 inspectors stepped out with clipboards. Morning, sir. We received a complaint. Environmental hazard and unpermitted. Business operations. I laughed softly. Let me guess, HOA President Karen Simmons. They shared a look. We can't say who filed it, but You're not the first she's called about. I handed them my permits. All current. County clerk signed off last week. One of them whistled. Everything's in order. Sorry for the hassle, sir. As they left, Karen's white SUV rolled up across the street. She stood outside, glaring at me like I'd sunk her yacht. I gave her a little wave. That night, Bob texted me. You might want to stop by the HOA meeting. Karen's making quite the speech. Curiosity got the best of me. I parked a block away and slipped into the back of the clubhouse. Karen was at the podium, practically vibrating. He's exploiting the community's resources. The view, the shoreline, all for profit. We can't allow this! A man in the front row raised a hand. Karen, the Marina's not HOA property. It's county land. But it affects us. She snapped. The noise, the traffic. Someone whispered, what noise? He runs a boat shop, not a nightclub. Laughter rippled through the room. I cleared my throat and stood up. Evening, everyone. The laughter died instantly. Karen froze. Matt, she said tightly. You're not a member. This is a closed meeting. Yeah, I said. But my name keeps coming up, so I figured I'd stop by. The tension was thick. I just want to make something clear, I continued. The Marina's legal. The county approved it. I'm hiring locals, keeping things clean and bringing business to the area. You should be happy about that. Karen's voice wavered. You're mocking everything we built here. No, I said calmly. I'm building something of my own. Someone clapped. Then another. Karen's face went red as the room filled with quiet applause. A week later, I noticed a strange car parked near the marina. Tinted windows, no plates. Then came another inspection, this time from an environmental agency. The officer, an older man named Miller, stepped out holding a clipboard. Routine check, sir. I sighed. Let me guess again. Karen? He smirked. You catch on fast. She called in a supposed fuel leak. He inspected for half an hour, found nothing, then leaned against his truck. Between you and me, she's wasting taxpayer money. But she's about to dig her own hole. How's that? She keeps filing false reports. County attorney's already looking into it. I grinned. Guess she should have checked whose dock she was poking. That weekend, I hosted a small community event at the marina. Free barbecue for locals. A few bands, kids fishing off the dock. The turnout was huge. Families from all over the county showed up. Even folks from the HOA came down, despite Karen's protests. People laughed, ate, fished, and talked. It felt like the kind of community I believed in. One that welcomed, not judged. But right when the band hit its second song, Karen arrived. White SUV, clipboard, sunglasses. She stormed down the dock, yelling over the music. You can't have an event here without HOA approval! The guitarist stopped mid-riff. Everyone turned. I stepped forward, microphone in hand. Karen, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but this isn't your jurisdiction. She sputtered. This is our shoreline! Our view! Then a familiar voice called out. Actually, ma'am, it's his. It was Officer Miller, the same county inspector. He walked over, smiling. We checked the deed. The marina's privately owned, county-approved, and entirely off HOA limits. So maybe it's time you stopped harassing this gentleman, the crowd murmured. Cameras came out. Karen's expression twisted between shock and fury. She opened her mouth, closed it, then turned and marched off. The band started playing again. The crowd cheered. That night, sitting on the pier watching the moon ripple across the water, I couldn't help but smile. Karen had thrown every trick she had and lost. But I knew her pride wouldn't let her stop there. The next move she made would be desperate, and sometimes desperation makes people dangerous. Still, I wasn't afraid. I'd faced storms far worse than an angry neighbor. I'd built my life on open water, and no HOA in the world could change that. For a few months, life felt perfect. The marina thrived, boats lined the docks. The bait shop buzzed with laughter, and kids learned to fish with their grandparents on lazy Saturday mornings. I even fixed up the old captain's office, turning it into a cozy lounge for veterans and locals. We'd sit around, swap sea stories, and sip on bad coffee like it was the finest whiskey. But beneath that peace, I could feel the tension brewing. Because people like Karen don't just let go. They wait. The lawsuit. It started one morning with a knock on my office door. A man in a gray suit handed me an envelope. Mr. Richardson, you've been served. Inside, a thick stack of papers. Plaintiff, Maple Shores Homeowners Association. Defendant, Matthew Richardson. Complaint, noise disturbance, trespassing by water, and community disruption. I couldn't help but laugh. Trespassing by water? I muttered. What does that even mean? I called my lawyer, Sandra Dale. She was sharp as a tack and twice as dangerous. When she finished reading the complaint, she snorted. This is the dumbest thing I've seen all week. And I handle custody battles over goldfish. So you're saying it's weak? I'm saying it's got more holes than your old fishing nets. Let's sink it. The day of the hearing, the courtroom was packed. Show members filled the benches behind Karen, all wearing their little matching blue scarves, their community pride, as they called it. I sat with Sandra at the defense table, wearing my cleanest shirt and my calmest face. The judge entered, stern and tired-looking. Let's keep this short, he said. I see HOA cases weekly, and they rarely end well for the HOA. Karen stood, chin high. Your Honor, this man has turned our peaceful community into a carnival. He brings in boats, noise, strangers. The judge interrupted. Do you have evidence of any laws being broken, Mrs. Simmons? Karen hesitated. Well, technically no laws, but then what are we doing here? Sandra smiled, sliding a folder across the table. Your Honor, here's the property map. County approval, environmental clearance, and business license, all in order. The Marina isn't even within HOA boundaries. The judge scanned the papers, then looked up unimpressed. Mrs. Simmons, this man owns and operates a legally registered business on his own land. Case dismissed. The gavel hit the wood. Karen's face drained of color. Sandra leaned toward me. That was faster than I expected. I smirked. That's what happens when you bring a slingshot to a cannon fight. A week later, word spread through Maple Shores like wildfire. The HOA had to pay my legal fees. Even the board members who once backed Karen started turning on her. Bob, my old friend from down the road, called me. Matt, you won't believe this. They voted to remove her as president. The whole neighborhood's tired of her nonsense. I didn't gloat. Okay, maybe a little. But then I saw her a few days later at the grocery store. She looked smaller, not physically, but like the weight of her own bitterness had finally started to crush her. She didn't yell, didn't glare, just quietly pushed her cart past mine. And for the first time, I felt not angry, just sorry for her. Late summer rolled in with heat thick as syrup. Then the weather alerts came. Category 2 hurricane approaching. Expected landfall within 24 hours. I rushed to the marina, helping boaters secure lines, stacking sandbags, shutting the power. By evening, the sky turned bruised and violent. The wind howled across the docks, snapping flags and bending palm trees. Harvey, the old owner, showed up to help. You sure you want to ride this out here? I've ridden worse, I said. The boats are family now. Gotta look out for them. At midnight, the storm hit full force. Rain lashed sideways, lightning tore across the sky, and waves slammed against the docks. We fought the wind, tying down tarps, securing the fuel tanks, shouting over the roar. Then, through the chaos, I saw headlights up on the road, a car stuck in the rising water. Harvey! I shouted. Someone's trapped! I ran toward it, rain stinging my face, water up to my knees. When I got close, I saw her, Karen gripping the steering wheel, terrified. Karen, roll down the window. She did, sobbing. It's stalled. I can't move it. I yanked the door open. Come on, let's go. I can't. My leg. Without thinking, I scooped her up and carried her toward the marina. The wind nearly knocking us both down. Harvey met me halfway, flashlight cutting through the rain. We got her inside the bait shop, wrapped in blankets. She shivered, whispering, Why would you help me? After everything I did, I sat down beside her, drenched to the bone. Because that's what decent people do. Karen, the storm doesn't care about HOA lines. She didn't reply, just stared at the floor, ashamed. When dawn broke, the storm had passed. The marina was a mess. Debris everywhere, broken docks, fallen trees. But we were alive, and so were the boats. Karen stood outside, her hair tangled, watching volunteers clean up. I walked up beside her. Not as bad as it looks, I said. We'll have her fixed in a week. She swallowed hard. I don't know what to say, Matt. Maybe start with thank you, Harvey joked, handing her a cup of coffee. She gave a weak smile. Thank you, and I'm sorry for everything. I just wanted things to stay the way they were. I didn't realize how much I was hurting people. I nodded. Change scares folks, but sometimes it brings better tides. She looked out at the docks. Need any help? I grinned. Always. That day, Karen picked up trash with the rest of us. No clipboard, no rules. Just hands, work, and quiet understanding. Over the next month, the community came together, HOA or not. People donated supplies, teens painted fences, veterans repaired docks. I renamed the old pier Unity Dock. When we held the reopening celebration, hundreds showed up. Even the new HOA board attended, this time with support instead of suspicion. Karen stood beside me, a little awkward but smiling. Looks beautiful, Matt. You really brought life back to this place. You helped too, I said. We all did. She hesitated. You think people will ever forget what I did? Maybe not, I said gently. But they'll remember what you did after. The lesson. As the sun set that evening, I stood on the end of the dock, watching the boats sway gently in their slips. The sky glowed orange and gold, waves lapping softly against the wood. Harvey joined me. You turned this place into something special, kid. Not just a marina, a message. I nodded. Yeah, that there's always room to rebuild, even when pride sinks you. He chuckled. You ever think about running for HOA president? I laughed. Nah, I'm good with the water. Karen walked over, handing me a small box. Inside was a brass nameplate that read, Captain's Honor, in appreciation of Matthew Richardson. Community gift, she said. And a reminder that sometimes the best way to steer a ship is to stop fighting the wind. I smiled. Thank you, Karen. For once, she didn't look like an HOA villain. She just looked human. As the camera fades out on the golden water and the fluttering Marina flag, my voiceover would say, sometimes people build fences where they should be building bridges. But if you stand your ground with kindness, not anger, you'll win more than any fight could ever give you. And maybe, just maybe, you'll teach even a Karen what community really means. If you like this story, don't forget to hit that like button, share it, and subscribe for more real stories about standing your ground and winning it with heart.